I am 32 years old, and while I hate to admit it, I've realized that I've spent a lot of my life in my comfort zone. And it makes me sad because while I'm not old necessarily, I'm not 80 years old or 90 years old, I've realized that a big chunk of my life is past, you know? The really good years of my life have passed. And while there's things that I'm proud of, like I said, I've realized that I've spent a lot of those years in the confines of what has been comfortable for me. And I've realized that I haven't really lived life to the fullest. It's almost like grief, in a sense, looking back on certain years of your life that you can't get back and realizing that there was a version of you that could have existed but didn't. And this video isn't about, doom and gloom and regret and everything like that, but more so about how to really live life to the fullest, what I'm realizing, what I have realized in my 32 years. There's a really good quote that I like, and it's, every person has two lives. And the second one begins when they realize that they only have one. And I've come to that place, or I am coming to that place. I think I've come face to face with that realization. I've experienced loss in life, experienced grief, and I've realized that life is fragile. And fortunately, that experience has maybe pushed me to this point a little bit faster than what I otherwise would have realized this important lesson that life really happens outside your comfort zone. And I know, it's one of the most common quotes or phrases out there that motivate a person to go and do something that scares them, but real understanding of a lesson or a quote like that only comes when you experience something. And what I've come to realize, what I've experienced, is our comfort zone is usually lying to us. It's lied to me in my life. It's convinced me that what is comfortable, the routine that I've been in, is the best use of my time. It's the best thing for me to do at that point in time. And then I started doing things that were outside my comfort zone just to shake things up a little bit. It's not anything crazy. It's not like I went skydiving or I, went bungee jumping or did some 6-month solo travel trip by myself or anything like that. But even something as simple as going to a restaurant by myself or getting out to the mountains. I live in Alberta and I'm extremely lucky, grateful to have such beautiful scenery and nature around me. And I have not made use of this to the extent that I really could have. I don't want to say should have because, yeah, maybe should have, but could have. I think that wherever I was at a certain point in my life in the past was exactly where I needed to be to learn the lessons to get to where I am right now talking on this video. But what I've learned is getting outside your comfort zone doesn't have to be the biggest thing. Like I said, you don't have to go and plan a big trip by yourself or go skydiving or whatever it is. But doing something to shake up your routine, you realize that that is what makes you feel the most alive sometimes. That your comfort zone, while for myself, it would be a lot of rumination or overthinking, overanalyzing that would keep me stuck a lot of times, keep me doing a lot of the same things, preventing me from making decisions. And then I would just be paralyzed almost, and then I would just be like, oh, well, I don't know what to do. So I would just do the same thing that I'd always done. I would convince myself that, well, I have more work to do, or, there's something more productive I could be doing than whatever this is. And ironically enough, what I realized through all of this is that actually taking time away from work to go and do something for yourself without any motive, without any need to optimize, without any need to um, get something out of it, you actually come back more refreshed, more inspired. You have more creativity. You're more in touch with yourself. You're more regulated. But funny enough, you know, the more that we stay within our comfort zone and just do the same things, you just think the same thoughts, you feel the same things, and you keep doing the same things, and you keep getting the same things in life. And you get to the realization that I've come to, which is you didn't actually really live. You're just inside this little box. Now imagine you lived your whole life in your house. You never left your house, knowing that there's a whole world out there. How limited would your experience of life be? Pretty limited. Now I would argue that you can reach different internal states, elevated states without having to go anywhere, just by going within yourself, expanding your own consciousness, that kind of thing. But for the context of this video, just imagine that you didn't leave your house or your residence your entire life, how limited your experience of life would be. Now, the same is true with us in our comfort zone. We have this little house that we've built for ourselves in our minds. And the walls of that house are usually our fears, the things that make us uncomfortable, things that challenge us, things that make us look at ourselves, whatever it is, And we often stay within that psychological home that we've built for ourselves. And like the metaphor I just said, it limits our experience of life. It keeps us stuck and stagnant. And then we wonder why life feels empty in a lot of ways. Okay, so this video is gonna be obviously a little bit different because normally I do my videos in one take, do a little bit of editing, and then post it. And today my camera died, so I wasn't able to finish the video, but something really interesting happened today after my camera died. And I want to share this story with you because it perfectly illustrates the message behind this video, which is getting outside your comfort zone is where life happens, where opportunities come your way, where your mind expands, where you put yourself into the unknown, the unpredictable. And that is where, as some say Joe Dispenza would put it, is where the field of infinite opportunities exists. So today, I decided that I was going to shake up my Sunday routine and go out to the mountains because, as I mentioned, I don't really make use of the mountains the way I really feel like I should. For what is best for me and the way that it is grounding for me, it helps me feel regulated, helps me clear my mind, helps me get in touch with myself, being in nature. So, I decided to go out to one of the lakes in Banff National Park, and I drove out there early this morning. It was very calm, and there was people out there when I got out there. So I decided to walk to the furthest part of the lake, away from where all the people would be. One of the most unreachable spots by foot. And I found a perfect spot there to just lay down my stuff and spend some time thinking, being, listening to some of my music, that kind of stuff. And that's where I got the idea to make this video. So started making the video. Well, as time went on, more and more people started coming on their paddle boards and on their kayaks and stuff down to the part of the lake that I was at. But then eventually the wind started picking up. And it made it very difficult for these people on paddle boards to get back to the other side of the lake. So, of all the places that people could have stopped, they stopped literally right next to where I was. When I say right next to me, I mean 5-10 feet away from where I was. But, I went out there to be by myself, to be on my own. No, I don't own that spot or anything like that. Anyone can go there. But it wasn't ideal. That was why I walked to that side of the lake. And I kind of thought to myself, man, the universe or God has a sense of humor. And I kind of just took it as a lesson or as an opportunity for me to just kind of let it go and just kind of laugh at the whole circumstance. And then more and more people started getting pushed over to where I was. And I don't know if it was because they saw other paddle boards there, so they thought it was a good place to stop. But before you know it, there was about 10 people over where I was. And they were just having a hard time being able to paddle themselves back to the other side of the lake. So I noticed a couple people were getting stuck. So I got in the water and I tried helping them, whether it was, giving them a boost, a little push they could get moving, or, help them take their paddle boards out of the water or whatever. And while I'm doing this, there is a couple of girls that I helped get their paddle boards out of the water, and they were speaking Portuguese. And I asked, oh, hey, because I'm half Portuguese. My dad spoke Portuguese, so I didn't understand it, but I could recognize the language. I said, hey, where are you guys from? They're like, oh, from Brazil. I was like, oh, very cool. I'm actually half Portuguese, kind of recognize the language. They're like, oh, sweet, whatever. Well, as I'm helping, my hat gets blown into the water. One of these girls dives in, swims after my hat, and brings me my hat back. And I was like, wow, thank you so much, And so the wind's continuing to pick up, and I'm like, and there's a bunch of people there. I'm like, I think I'm about ready to go here. So I start packing my stuff up. And these people are all of these random people are trying to figure out what they should do to try and get back to the other side. Should they tie all of the paddle boards together in a row and paddle together, whatever. And so I decided as I'm going, this other group of girls, they were going to walk back. And I was like, well, I'll help you carry your paddle boards back. We're going in the same direction. So I helped them carry their paddle boards back. And we're having a good chat, where we're from, what we like to get up to, whatever. And then when I got back to their vehicles, they're like, oh, hey, well, what are you doing for the rest of the day? We're going to go grab a bite to eat in Banff, the town of Banff, if you want to come. And I was like, yeah, sure. Why not? So there I am at that point, driving to Banff to have lunch with 3 people I don't really even know. All because I decided to switch up my routine and get outside my comfort zone a little bit. And, drive an hour and a half to the mountains and spend some time, which I thought was going to be by myself. But God, life, the universe had other plans for me. And I'm not complaining because, I had a great lunch. They were very nice. And they're like, hey, well, you know what? If you like hiking, we can go hiking sometime. So, they got my contact information and we'll see what happens there. But it was just a testament to life happens outside your comfort zone. And so often, I don't know about you, but myself, as I was saying at the beginning of the video, I've held myself back from doing certain things. And it's not necessarily big things, but little things like getting out and doing that, not because I'm scared of it necessarily, but because I've convinced myself that what has been comfortable or routine for me is the best use of my time, is the best thing for me to do. And don't get me wrong, sometimes it is. I'm not saying, throw out your entire routine and just, live from a place of spontaneity all the time. Sundays are usually a pretty open day for me, so that's why I chose to do it today. Anyways, it was just a very funny lesson that You never know what will happen when you decide to get outside your comfort zone and how much more alive you feel when you do those things. You're expanding the limits of your mind. You're no longer living in the home that you've built, the psychological home or house that you've built inside your mind. You're getting outside of that. And yes, it is scary. It is unpredictable. But what I've realized is being in the unknown or the unpredictable, although it's uncomfortable, especially for your nervous system, if it's going to try and predict threats and all that kind of stuff, is actually the best place to be in a lot of ways, because that is where you have no idea which opportunities or what is going to come your way if you just stay open to it. I was not looking for anything when I went out there today. I was just wanting to spend some time by myself in nature and take it in. And then I ended up meeting some really great people and making some good connections. And whether something comes of it or not doesn't really matter. The fact of it to me is life or the universe or God was directly showing me, hey, when you decide to open up to me, I'll show you the possibilities that can come your way. But I think the key is to not go into something looking for it. If you are attached to some sort of outcome or searching for it, it can't come your way. It'll come your way when you're not looking for it. But I think a lot of times we convince ourselves to stay in the confines of this psychological house, this comfort zone, because we overthink things. I don't know about you, but this has been true in my life. You overthink things. You're like, hey, I need to plan things out. I need to figure out what's going to happen when I get here, there, all that. That's fine to an extent, but at some point, it's just overkill. And you almost think your way out of wanting to do it at all. And it's just a buzzkill. Overthinking will just suck the life out of you. It really can. It has for me in my life. And that's the lesson that I'm starting to learn, is that don't overthink things so much. If you feel called to do something, go and do it. You might not have all the answers. You might not know how it's all going to pan out right away. And that's okay. That's actually the fun part, because you have no idea how it could pan out. You could end up going for lunch with 3 strangers and have a great time. You could end up meeting someone or having some sort of opportunity or learning something, or you have no idea. But if you go into it with a mindset that, maybe something can happen, or maybe not, maybe I'm just going into this with an open mind, that's when things can actually come your way. That's when you actually feel more alive. I can tell you right now, while I like my Sunday routine, I like, getting groceries and doing laundry and, cleaning up my place and getting ready for the next week and, doing client prep and all that kind of stuff. And it's necessary. This kind of stuff, getting outside your comfort zone, shaking things up a little bit, will make you feel much more alive. It'll help you come back to your routine more rejuvenated, more creative, more inspired, more refreshed. So just know that you don't have to wait until you're my age if you're younger than me. And if you're older than me, you don't have to wait another day to start choosing to get outside your comfort zone. Again, it doesn't have to be some crazy thing. You don't have to go diving with sharks. You can just do something small that is outside of your routine. Try that class, try that hobby, go and talk to someone if in public that you don't know. I don't know, whatever it is. But you'll realize what living actually feels like versus just existing. So just remember that you're going to die. You're going to die. You might as well just try to get outside your comfort zone and just see what it's like. And if you don't like it, hey, you can go back into the walls of your house that you're comfortable in. You never have to leave again. But it's better to do that and at least know what it's like to get outside your comfort zone than to never do it, get to the end of your life, and then wonder, man, what if I did that? What if I tried that thing? What if I faced that fear? What if I went on that trip? What if I talked to that person? What if? You'd rather have an oh well, it didn't work out, or I didn't like that, than a what if. That is what I have come to learn in looking back on my life, in the opportunities that I passed up, in not truly getting outside of my comfort zone. And I can tell you right now, it's, do I live with regret? Not necessarily, because, I'm happy with where I'm at now in life and the lessons that I've learned. Do I think that my life would be different if I did do that? Yes, it would be. But you can't live it with that mindset. All you can do is take where you're at now and the lessons you've learned and move forward with that. And that is the purpose of this video of, if you feel like your mind keeps you stuck in your comfort zone and you're doing the same things all the time and you feel paralyzed from overthinking, that you can't make decisions and it's just keeping you in this stagnant place, know that one small step into the unpredictable, to shake things up, to do something different, can drastically change the way you feel, the ideas that come to your mind, the opportunities that come your way, all of it. It's very, very powerful. So I hope this video helps you. I hope it's a bit of a different video than what I posted before, but I really wanted to share that story with you because I think it's just funny how I went out there with the intent of just switching up my routine, and boy, did my day go different than what I thought it would. When I woke up this morning, I didn't think that I was going to end up having lunch with strangers in Banff. But I'm glad it happened. And God, or the universe, works in very funny ways, has a sense of humor. Sometimes you just have to go along with it. So, hope this video helps, and I'll see you in the next one.